Hello, everyone. Looking at MJNA CBIS HEMP GRNH TRTC on the daily and weekly time frame, wrapping up the voting week. We had the anticipated sell the news reaction because the polls had factored in all of the bullish sentiment heading into those votes. The states that looked like they were going to pass easily did pass. And from there, we're left thinking, okay, what's the catalyst now going forward? What's the catalyst over the next few months that's going to bring hype into this sector? So we did see the bulls buy the dip after a two-day pullback. It was a very significant two-day pullback. The USMJ sector lost about 20% in those 2 days, and bulls bought the dip on Friday. So the question now that we are going to be asking and wondering going forward is, are we going to see lower highs and lower lows going forward? A lot of these names closed at the high of the day on Friday, which does show strength going into Monday. I would be cautious if we see a gap up open on Monday. That, in my opinion, would be the kind of gap up to sell. The rule of thumb is gap ups are for selling and gap downs are for buying. Obviously, there's scenarios where that is not the case, but the vast majority of the time, if you live by that rule, the odds are in your favor to be favorable. So let's start with MJNA on the daily time frame. We had our top. The vote was on November 8th. So that's when we had our lower high set. The initial reaction the next day, trapped some bulls, and then we pulled back significantly. So you can see we have a clear lower high and lower low pattern developing now as we pull back and consolidate with profit taking. This is a big bullish reversal candlestick bouncing off the 50-day moving average support. The low hit 0.071, and like I said, we closed at the high of the day, so we are expecting some upside on Monday. But if we form a lower high on this move back to the upside, and if it doesn't break 20 cents, it's just going to be another lower high, and we'll see how much pullback we get from there. On the weekly time frame, we lost the upper Bollinger Band support. That's now resistance at 12 cents, and next week it's going to be higher. We need to update that level next week. It's going to line up with the 200-week moving average resistance. So we have been riding the upper Bollinger Band in breakout mode as support for the last 5 weeks. Big upper wick profit-taking bearish reversal candlestick. It has been confirmed. It does have a long lower wick with bulls buying the dip. But with this upper Bollinger Band now standing as resistance, I would suspect that the bulls are going to have a really hard time next week getting back over this upper Bollinger Band. We had the volume climax signaling the top. Oftentimes, volume climaxes signal the top of an uptrend or the bottom of a downtrend. In this case, potentially the top of this uptrend. We'll see how much consolidation we have going forward. And if we look back at history, as we have been doing in these videos, in 2014, we had a sell the news reaction to the vote. We had a pullback and then a bounce and then a lower high, lower low, and then we resumed into a very tight range with little opportunity for the bulls for 3 months until February. Now, not saying that's going to be the exact case, but so far history has matched up very consistently with 2014, or 2012, I should say. So CBIS, same pattern. We got very tight. We hit the high, pulled back, hit a low of consolidation, a lower high, and then we did not form a higher low. We broke bearish. So we have now a lower high and now a lower low. The bulls did buy that dip off the 50-day moving average support. Same candlestick closing at the high. A gap up, I would be cautious for potential profit taking, and I do expect a lower high to form. The bulls would have to break 0.0707 to see this lower high pattern break on the daily time frame. So Thursday on increased bear volume, that's the thing. Look at the volume. MJNA had pretty high volume. It didn't increase from Wednesday to Thursday, but MJNA, or I take that back, CBIS did increase in bear volume as it broke that support from the initial consolidation. So there's our lower low. Now bulls are trying to rally, and we'll see they're going to have to see some increased bull volume to get back up to that 0.0707 level. Same thing on the weekly time frame. You can see how clear this sector is lining up and seeing correlations with each other. And it was very clear on the 2 days following the vote that money came out of the U.S. sector and it went into the Canadian sector. And check out the Canadian video to see a lot of names breaking out on the second half of this week while we had a lot of U.S. names pulling back. So here on CBIS, we lost the upper Bollinger Band support. We had been in breakout mode holding that level for 5 weeks in a row, same as MJNA. Now that level is resistance. We have to update that on Monday. It's going to be in the mid to upper 5-cent range, and I would suspect it's going to act as resistance. It's going to require big bull volume to get above that level, and the question is going to be, what's the catalyst going to be here to get the bull volume to show back up, to head back to these highs that we saw before the vote? Now, individual companies, if they come out with a big news release, that could be a reason for the bulls to show back up. There were instances in 2012 where we did see some individual names continue to show some strength after the sell the news reaction. But the last thing you want to be doing is holding a losing position, giving back profit, and hoping for news. So hemp looks worse than the others in the sense that we had our lower high, or here's our pullback, our initial consolidation low. There's our lower high. Then we had a lower low form on Wednesday, increased bear volume 3 days in a row, continued that pullback on Thursday, same candlestick on Friday, bullish reversal. What stands out? Look at the bull volume on Friday compared to the bear volume on Thursday. Almost half. That is not a good sign for the bulls, and that would have me suspect that this little short-term bounce is going to be short-term. Let's look at the volume again. CBIS, bull volume is less than the bear volume, and some of this is bear volume too. We can't even attribute this. Look at the shape of the candlestick here for CBIS. The open was the high of the day, and it was all bear action with very little bulls buying. Here we have bear action and bulls buying, but a lot of this volume can be attributed to bear action as well because we did drive to lower lows. So you see this volume candlestick, and not all of that is even bull volume. There's definitely some bear volume mixed in there as well. Looking at MJNA, look at the bull volume compared to the bear volume, almost half. So this is a very consistent pattern, and it tells me that we are likely to see just another lower high form on the daily time frame. So weekly time frame for hemp, losing the upper Bollinger Band, still holding the middle Bollinger Band of 0.031, but this bounce is very insignificant compared to a lot of these other names. Let's zoom out and look at the past 2 years for hemp and see how much of a dent that the bulls made reversing this trend. And the answer is they didn't really do anything to reverse this trend at all. We didn't even break highs from March where we hit 6.7 cents. Here we hit 0.056. So the bears are still very much in control of the overall trend. If we see higher lows and higher highs continue to form and head back up towards 10 cents, that's when this trend is going to start to change. I've said it in the other videos. I have no bearish position in any of these penny stocks. I would never in my life short a penny stock in the most explosive sector that there is. That's just playing with fire. But I have to call it like it is, and hemp is one of the most bearish names because they've gone through reverse splits. They have lots of shares hitting the market, and look at all this volume that did nothing to change the trend for the long term. Now, we changed the trend over the past 3 months, absolutely, but if we zoom out, it's just a big old downtrend. GRNH, same pattern and same weakness. We have our lower high, pull back this week, sell the news reaction, lower low, bulls show up, look at the volume, look at the bear volume. It's not even half of the bear volume we saw on Thursday. So the bull volume, it is a bullish reversal candlestick. 10-day moving average resistance will likely be tested early next week. I would be surprised if the bulls can get back to 11, 12 cents on this bounce attempt unless we see the big volume pour in. And clearly the bear volume is outweighing the bull volume. Weekly time frame on GRNH, and we see pullback. We lost the upper Bollinger Band 2 weeks ago. It was one of the first names to lose that. The next week we had a back test and rejection, the upper wick rejecting from that upper Bollinger Band. This week a second time, back test and rejecting from that upper Bollinger Band. Do have a nice lower wick holding moving average support, but it's clear that we are consolidating. And last, we'll wrap it up here with TRTC. Same pattern. Lower high, lower low. Came close to breaking that high. We had a gap and trap scenario on November 8th. Opened at the high of the day, gap up. Gap up was for selling in this scenario big time. And then we pulled back significantly. Look at the bull volume compared to the bear volume. I know I'm a broken record here, but it's the same in all these names, and it's a very clear technical pattern for any analyst looking at volume and looking at the higher low, higher high trend that has now shifted to lower highs and lower lows. I don't want to be all doom and gloom on this sector. I just have to call it like I see it, and I got a whole bunch of, bearish emails, people really upset that I was calling for a sell the news reaction. And I'm not saying, haha, I was right. I don't care that I was right. I'm just trying to give you an unbiased opinion of what I see occurring on these charts and what I expect to play out. If I'm wrong, I'll come on here and say I am absolutely wrong. And I am fine doing that. But in this scenario, the volume is key. And the volume on Friday, the bull volume was half of the bear volume the previous 3 days. So we need a green day on Monday to confirm this bullish reversal candlestick for all of these names, and we need to see an increase in volume for the bulls to have any kind of hope to getting back to levels before the sell the news dump did occur. So it's entirely possible that could happen, but odds do not favor it looking at these charts. So I'll keep checking back in with these names, and we will see if things turn around. But as of right now, definitely expecting another lower high to be set. Some struggle with the 10-day moving average resistances on these names. Watch the middle Bollinger Band and 10-day moving average resistance. Watch the volume, and we'll check back in midweek. I appreciate you watching. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend.